Hello everyone, welcome back to another video and another cozy travel vlog. Today I thought I would share with you all of the bookstores that I got to visit on my recent 3-week trip to Europe, so I hope you enjoy the video. At the end there will also be a book haul so I can show you more in depth everything that I picked up. Our first stop is Arnold Busk, or Busk, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that, I apologize, in Copenhagen, Denmark, and this was definitely one of my favorite bookstores that we ended up visiting. I loved it so much. I didn't really get a chance to visit a lot of bookshops in Germany, which was where we were for the first week or so of our trip, because it was Christmas time and so most of the stores were closed. So walking in here felt like heaven. It was amazing. They had the best selection, so many books. I want to say about half of them were in English as well, which was definitely surprising to me. I think the coolest thing was just seeing all the different editions. They had like UK editions, translated editions, and you could find the same book in like 3 different cover options, which I have never seen before. I think I ended up going back probably 3 times, and we were in Copenhagen for 1 day, so this is definitely a must if you are ever in Copenhagen. This bookstore was incredible. I think it was a total of 3 different stories. This main floor was like the fiction section, upstairs was more non-fiction, and then the entirety of the downstairs, the basement area, was a stationery store, which was also amazing. I love stationery shops. The fact that they are combined here with bookshops, it's just my favorite thing. Here is the basement floor, all dedicated to stationery and puzzles and cards. I loved it so much. Definitely check out this bookstore if you ever get the chance. It was one of my favorites. I loved it, and I'm so glad that I got to visit it. Our next stop is Gilbert Joseph in Paris. We went to a couple different bookstores in Paris, and this was 100% my favorite. It was huge. It was so big. I think it was maybe like 5 or 6 stories, and they had an underground section. It was on 2 different sides of the street, and I think it connected underground. I think they claimed to be the largest independent bookstore in Paris, as well as having the lowest prices, and I can definitely attest to that. They had a combination of new and used books, and they definitely did have some of the best prices that I've seen. I feel like especially in Paris, books definitely trended towards the more expensive side, but because most of the books here were used, they had some amazing deals, and I loved it. I loved looking at all the French books, at the different covers. French books have some beautiful sprayed edges, which is really fun to see. I don't know, just looking at the different titles and the translation is really fun. My French is definitely not yet at the level where I think I can comfortably read an entire book. Hopefully one day it will be. Thankfully, this store did actually have a very impressive English section as well, which I was not expecting. Definitely less English spoken in general, I would say, in France compared to some of the other countries. But they had, I think, an entire floor dedicated to English at this bookshop, so that was also really fun to look around. I saw some amazing titles that have been on my list for a while. I just loved it. They also still had a lot of the Christmas decorations out, which is fun to see. Definitely my favorite that we ended up going to in Paris, I would say. I felt very safe there. I loved it. Here is our next stop in Paris. One thing I can definitely say about, I'm pretty sure, every single bookshop we visited is they were all absolutely beautiful. All of the books and the bookshelves were just displayed so nicely, and this bookstore in particular felt a little bit more serious, I would say. I think they specialized more in classics and French literature, nonfiction, that sort of thing. There wasn't a whole lot of like modern day fiction, but I still really had a good time looking around. They also had a really cute and adorable children's book section, which obviously is really important. I noticed a lot of the French bookstores had really nice sections dedicated for kids, which I always love to see. I also noticed that a lot of the French books were almost entirely in white and were covered in white spines. I think you can kind of see here. I did look into this a little bit because I was curious, and I guess this is just like a French publishing trend that started a couple decades ago with the hopes of books and literature to feel a little bit more serious and cohesive and less flashy. A lot of French publishing companies will print their books with a very simplistic cover, very simple font, and then an entirely white spine, which I thought was very interesting. I've never seen that before. This next bookshop we sort of just ran into, and this one had moving ladders, which was so cool. Very, very magical. Definitely reminds me of Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, again, just goes to show you how beautiful so many books are displayed in a lot of these shops. I loved to look around and see it. The last bookshop that we visited in Paris, I think this one had the best children's section. I actually think that a lot of the store was dedicated solely for the children's section, which again I just think is so special and important to have a great selection of books for kids to read. And this one just had such cute architecture and little like benches and places to sit. It was so cute. It has been a dream of mine for a while now to visit Waterstones, which is the big English bookstore chain. I think it's kind of like the equivalent of Barnes & Noble in the UK, and we visited I think 2 different ones. This is the one that I vlogged. I don't remember exactly where this one was. I think it was in Soho maybe? It was kind of just in a big general shopping area, and I loved Waterstones so much. I can only speak for this one and the other one that I visited, but I just loved how cozy it was. They had lots of seating, the books were displayed beautifully. I actually loved the look of the darker shelves. I think it also just made it extra cozy, and just the atmosphere of this bookstore was top notch. I loved it so much. It was definitely a reader's dream of mine for a long time to visit Waterstones, and so I'm very grateful that I finally got to. I had the best time. I was there looking around for quite a while. I am just obsessed with UK covers. I think they're so pretty. They were also having a pretty big sale going on. I think both Waterstones and Barnes & Noble have these big end of the year sales around New Year's time. So that was really fun to see. A lot of the books were half off or buy one get one half off, that sort of thing, which was also really nice. The last bookstore that I vlogged was Daunt Books, also in London. This was not like the big main famous Daunt Books. We ended up going to I think a smaller chain of it, but it was also amazing. I think this one also had some of my favorite displays. It was just so pretty everywhere, and though it was pretty small, like it was just mainly one room, I think they had a second floor as well. There were so many titles and so many books that I was so excited to see. I definitely feel like I didn't have enough time in London to explore all the bookstores that I would have wanted to, but I'm glad that we got to go to Waterstones and Daunt Books. I feel like those are 2 of the big ones. Visiting and looking around in bookshops in general is just one of my favorite things to do, and definitely also one of my favorite things to do when traveling. I don't know, I think bookstores are just a little bit different everywhere you go, and I have a really fun time looking around, noticing all the similarities and differences, looking at all the titles. We honestly spent a lot of this trip going to different bookshops. It was just such a fun way to see the city and all these different countries. It's been, I think, about a week now since I've gotten back from my trip, and I thought I would give you guys a little bit of a book haul to show you everything that I picked up at the bookstores in Europe. I think I'm going to go in order based off of when I bought them and then tell you which bookstores I bought them from. And I'll also tell you whether I've read them or not because I didn't bring any books with me on my trip. I only brought my Kindle and it was about a 3-week trip, so I was actually getting through a decent amount of them and reading them while I was away, which was extra fun. So I wanted to show you that. One of my goals for 2025 is to really not buy too many books, so this was kind of like my last book buying, I guess, that I was allowing myself, especially since I was in Europe and the covers are different, the editions are different, and so that just made things a little bit more special. I also just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a book haul in general and share you some other books that I've picked up recently. Nothing too crazy, and I think for the most part from this point moving forward I don't really plan on buying too many books in the near future, excluding new releases and that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and go through all the books that I have picked up so far this year and on my trip. So these are the first 3 books that I picked up. I bought these from Arnold Busk or Busk in Denmark. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that word. This was definitely one of my favorite bookstores we visited. They had some really cool editions, and these are the 3 that I picked up. First, I got Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne-Jones. This is actually my current read. I'm hoping that I can finish it today because I'm over halfway through, but it's just like a middle grade fantasy, I guess. Obviously it's very classic. The Studio Ghibli movie is based off of it. I love the Studio Ghibli movie, and so I really wanted to read it, and I think this cover is just absolutely beautiful. This is the UK edition, and I think it's just a lot prettier than the US edition, and I absolutely love it. So I had to pick this out because I knew I wanted to read it. This was also on my 2025 TBR, so I got it, and I'm really glad that I did. I am enjoying it a lot so far. Then I got Upon a Frosted Star by M.A. Kuzunar. This is a companion novel, I guess, to Midnight in Everwood, also by M.A. Kuzunar, and these are kind of just like wintry fairy tale fantasy historical retelling. So Midnight in Everwood is a Nutcracker retelling, and this is a Swan Lake retelling. And I haven't read Midnight in Everwood yet, but I decided to get this one because I've really just been in the mood for super wintry stories. And I did actually read this one. This is the first book that I finished in 2025, and I really enjoyed it. I definitely had some critiques of it, but in general, I really enjoyed it. It was very magical. I liked the writing, and this cover is absolutely beautiful. I don't think I have officially shared on here my January cover page yet, but for January in my bullet journal, I ended up doing a kind of Swan Lake theme, and this was definitely a huge inspiration for that. So I just love this cover. I think it's absolutely beautiful, the foiling and everything. And I haven't actually even seen these books. I've heard of them, but I don't think I've ever actually seen them in bookstores at home. So when I saw this and I was looking for a wintry book to read, I had to get it. And I did also read this. We'll put it in the read/reading pile. I'm so excited about this. I found the UK hardcover for Emily Wilde, the first one. This is one of my favorite series of all time. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I think this is probably also the series that I have the most editions of. This specific edition I have been looking for so long, and I honestly thought it was out of print because usually after the first year or so of a book being published, it will switch to paperback and it's pretty much impossible to find the hardcovers anymore. But I can't believe I found this. This is the UK hardcover, and it's absolutely beautiful. It now matches my UK hardcover version of the second book, and I am obsessed with it. It is beautiful. This inspired a bullet journal theme, I think last January, and I'm just obsessed with the series, with this cover. And I also actually did do a reread for this while we were away. I decided to start reading this, and I finished it while we were on our trip. This was the second book that I finished in 2025, and I am obsessed with this book. I think I gave it maybe like a 4.5 the first time, and upon a reread, it is 100% 5-star. I love this book and this series and this world and these characters so much. I'm really excited to do a reread of the second one, and then the third one comes out, I think, the first week of February. So I'm just overall very excited to have this edition, and just I love the series in general. I didn't show the bookstore that I bought this in. It was called Thalia, which I think is like just a German bookstore chain. For the most part, while we were in Germany, it was holidays, so most of the bookstores were closed. But one of the days, I think when we were in Berlin, we were able to stop by really quickly. I didn't get a chance to vlog, but I did pick up a book from Thalia, and that is Nettle by Bex Hogan. I have never heard of this book before or seen it out. I actually think it just came out in October, and I don't even know if it's published here. But I just thought the cover was really, really pretty. Look at it. And then I read the premise, and it's just like a fairy tale kind of fae story. So I decided to pick it up. I thought it would be a quick read, and it was. I actually read this on the airplane and in the airport on our way home, and it definitely carried me through. I think I gave this like a 2.5 star maybe, because I definitely didn't love it, but it was just very easy to read. It was a fairy tale. Honestly, exactly what I expected. I have no regrets, and it kept me entertained through many layovers and long flights, so I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, I think the cover is beautiful. I did get around to reading this. This is the third book that I finished in 2025, so we can also put that in the red pile. I think the only book that I bought while we were in France and in Paris was The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I feel like this book has been, I actually don't know when this was published, maybe a couple of years ago, and it's been very popular since then. I feel like it's gotten a lot of awards and good reviews, and I finally decided to get it. I got this from Gilbert Joseph in Paris, and I just love it so much. It's beautiful. Again, this is the like UK paperback edition, which I think is the same cover as the US edition. It just has kind of some pretty foiling and whatnot, and I'm just very excited to read this. I think ever since reading like The Starless Sea, I've just been wanting to read books that are very magical and have lots of discussion around books and stories and language, and that's what I've heard this one kind of being known for, so I'm very excited to get to this one. It's been on my radar for a little while now, and I think this might be an upcoming read for me. I'm just very intrigued by it. Let me know your thoughts if you've read it. I also know the second one is out already. I don't know if it's going to be like a longer series than that, but I'm just very intrigued and very excited to read this, and I just love the UK cover, so I had to pick it up. And then when we went to Waterstones, I got The Clockwork Girl by Anna Mazzola. I think I had seen this book a couple of times across some of the other prior bookstores, and when I saw it in Waterstones, I just decided to get it because, again, the cover is beautiful, and I haven't even ever seen this book in the US before. But since we had just come from Paris, and when I read that this was a historical fantasy that takes place in Paris, I knew I just had to get it. I absolutely adore books that take place in Paris, especially if there's some sort of magical realism element to them. And honestly, I don't really know what this book is about. It says historical fiction with a fantastical twist, done with verve and skill. An atmospheric and constantly surprising thriller, Paris, 1750. It just sounds exactly like something I would enjoy. I don't know, it also seems potentially a little bit like winter-esque, and I'm just very excited to read it. So that is The Clockwork Girl by Anna Mazzola. I guess I should put these in the unread pile. And then the last book that I got while we were in Europe, while we were in London, is Midnight in Everwood by M.A. Kuznara, which I was just kind of talking about. This is how they look together. This is not really a series, it's more like a companion piece. I think they do have some overlapping characters, but as you can see, they just look really pretty next to each other. I decided to get this because I did enjoy Upon a Frosted Star a lot. I just loved the writing and how magical it was, and I think in general people tend to prefer this one. So I had to pick it up. I love the Nutcracker so much, and I love Nutcracker retellings, and I feel like this is definitely one of the more popular ones out there. I bought this from Hatchard's, I believe. There were actually two big bookstores that we went to on our last night in London that I didn't get a chance to vlog just because we were going there kind of late at night and they were closing, but we were able to go to Hatchard's, which I feel like is definitely one of the big well-known bookstores in London, and it was amazing. We were there pretty much right as it was closing, so I was just kind of rushing, but it was amazing. I would love to go back there. And then we also checked out the giant Waterstones flagship as well in Piccadilly, which is I think the largest bookstore in Europe, and that was also amazing. I think by that point I was just feeling very tired and overwhelmed, but I did really want this book and I was kind of hunting for it, and so I'm really excited to have found it at Hatchard's. I think this could also potentially be a book I want to read quite soon. I'm just very excited about it. I'm still in the mood for like super wintry stories, so I feel like this is going to fit that very well. So these are all of the books that I bought in Europe, except for Emily Wilde. All of these are paperbacks. I obviously had to be like kind of smart with my purchases because I did not have a lot of luggage space and I knew that I didn't have room for any hardcovers. So I pretty much only bought paperbacks, and I wanted to get some books to kind of just like fund my TBR, ones I'd be really excited about, ones that I read on our trip. And I'm really happy with everything that I picked up. Some of these books I have never seen back at home, and so I wanted to kind of prioritize that and getting books with covers that I couldn't get back at home. And overall, I'm just so excited about all these books. I'm really glad to have picked them up. I do want to show you a couple other books that I have bought since then. Nothing crazy, just some books I haven't shared yet. So I think I ordered these before we left and they arrived when I got back. But these are the UK paperback editions of Erin Morgenstern's books. I read The Night Circus, I think a couple years ago in 2023 maybe, and I did really enjoy it. It wasn't like a favorite or anything. I think I had read it around the same time I had read The Infernal Devices and Divine Rivals, which are two of my favorite books, so it was just kind of not given all the attention that I think it deserves. But I did really enjoy it, and I 100% understand why people love this, and I think I also just at the time didn't realize how much I love these like super magical, whimsical, a bit like more less direct vibey stories. But I did end up unhauling the copy of it that I had because I just didn't really like that edition and I just didn't like it on my shelves. But I knew that I would probably want to reread this someday, so I've kind of been on the hunt for a new copy of it for some time now. And then I obviously read The Starless Sea in December and I loved it so much, and it's one of those books that I feel like just based off of like how the story sort of unfolds and how everything connects, it has to be reread at least once, at least for me, to just kind of understand the intricacies and just the connections that I didn't pick up on the first time. So I've been really wanting to reread this ever since I read it the first time. I could probably reread the story so many times and pick up new things each time. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it so much. So I really wanted to pick up some paperback editions of these. That way I could reread them and annotate them and kind of go through them a second time. And I really like these editions of them. I think they're really pretty. I like how they match. I like the covers. So I think both of these will definitely be rereads for me in 2025. Definitely looking to do some more rereads in 2025, and I think these will be the ones that I pick up pretty soon. And then the last book I want to show you is a new release that I think isn't actually supposed to come out until tomorrow, but I found it early at Barnes & Noble the other day, so I had to pick it up, and that is none other than A Crown So Silver by Lyra Celine. This is the second book in the Fair Folk. I don't know if it's a duology or not, the first book being A Feather So Black, which I read I think in June maybe. And I definitely had some critiques with that book, but overall I really had a good time with it. It was very easy to read and very dreamy and magical, which I of course love. So I have been really excited for the second one to come out, and I really love this cover. And so I had to pick it up. It's always exciting to find books when they're put out a little bit early. So I'm very excited to read this. It also may be one of my next reads. I'm not entirely sure yet. And this one is also supposedly very wintry. So overall, I'm just really excited to read this. So these are all the books that I have bought recently. It does kind of look like a lot looking at it now, but like I said, I don't really plan to do a whole lot of book buying from this point moving forward. But that is pretty much it for my book shopping vlog and travel vlogs and little book haul. Definitely will be going back to normal content very soon. My next video will be a New Year reset, and I'm very excited about that. But I hope you enjoyed the book shopping vlog and seeing everything that I picked up, all the bookstores that I got to visit. I had the best time and feeling very good and inspired and excited about the new year, so I can't wait to start making more videos and of course doing more reading. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!